At exactly 12 o'clock, when most of the world reaches for a menu, King Charles III reaches for another stack of briefing papers. There is no clinking of silverware, no scent of a roasting joint, and no formal table set for two. For decades, one of the most persistent and physically demanding rules of the king's daily routine has been the complete and total omission of lunch. To the average person, this sounds like a missed opportunity for rest, but to the monarch, a sit-down meal in the middle of the day is nothing more than an unnecessary interruption to his constitutional duties. This is not a modern dietary fad or a temporary health kick. It is a disciplined lifestyle choice that he has maintained for most of his adult life, rooted in a relentless work ethic. He treats his body as a vessel for his work, rather than a temple for indulgence. However, this level of dedication creates a unique challenge for those around him. Those in his inner circle describe a pace of life that is often exhausting to maintain. One former member of the royal staff recounted the struggle of keeping up with his energy levels, saying, "The king simply does not stop. We would be on back-to-back engagements, stretching from the early morning until late afternoon without a single pause for sustenance. My stomach would be rumbling so loudly I was afraid the dignitaries would hear it." But the king seemed entirely unfazed, as if he had transcended the basic biological need for food. Another royal aide admitted to a secret survival strategy, whispering to colleagues, "You quickly learn that if you are shadowing the king, you must pack energy bars or secret snacks in your pockets. If you wait for a formal lunch break, you will be waiting until the sun goes down." This absence of a midday meal sets a tone of serious industry, signaling that the business of the monarchy takes absolute precedence over personal comfort. If you find this level of discipline impressive, or perhaps a bit too extreme, let me know in the comments if you could survive a workday without lunch. Also, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more hidden secrets from behind the palace gates. While the king effectively deletes lunch from his calendar, there is one specific moment in the late afternoon that he considers absolutely sacrosanct. It is a restorative ritual where the water temperature, the steeping time, and even the type of sweetener are non-negotiable. What is this one ceremony that can finally force the king to stop working? While the midday meal is sacrificed on the altar of duty, the late afternoon brings a ritual that is considered absolutely sacrosanct. At precisely 5 o'clock, the frantic pace of the royal day finally yields to a restorative pause that is anchored in legendary precision. This is not merely a drink, it is a carefully choreographed transition from the public demands of the monarchy to the more reflective evening hours. Reports from the palace indicate that the king favors Darjeeling tea, often sourced from the high-altitude foothills of the Himalayas. However, the preparation is far from a simple pour and steep. The water temperature, the exact length of the brewing process, and the specific choice of sweetener are all non-negotiable variables. He is known to prefer organic honey over processed sugar, a choice that aligns with his lifelong environmental philosophy. A former royal aide once described the pressure of this moment, saying, "You don't just serve the king a cup of tea. You navigate a minefield of standards. The milk must be added last to preserve the proteins, and if the temperature is off by even a few degrees, the entire restorative effect is lost." For the king, it is a moment of calm, but for the staff, it is a high-stakes performance of accuracy. As the day transitions further into the evening, the tea service gives way to a more spirited tradition. Before the formal dinner begins, the king often enjoys a dry martini, but true to his character, he rejects the modern trend for bone-dry cocktails. Instead, he prefers a classic 50-50 mix, equal parts gin and dry vermouth. This old-fashioned ratio requires high-quality ingredients to maintain its balance. To ensure this consistency while traveling the world, he is famously known to bring his own spirits, and even his own specific glass to foreign functions. It is a small, controlled indulgence that provides a sense of home and stability in a life defined by constant travel and public scrutiny. This obsession with the exact doesn't stop at the bottom of a glass. While the drinks are managed with military precision, the solid food that follows carries an even higher level of scrutiny. You might be surprised to learn that a single, humble breakfast item has become the ultimate benchmark for perfection. In the royal kitchen, a dish so simple, yet so difficult to get right, that it has generated its own set of palace myths. Beyond the velvet curtains and the heavy oak doors of the royal dining room, a silent, high-stakes operation is underway. It is a world where close enough is never acceptable, and the margin for error is measured in millimeters and seconds. Imagine a footman standing over a grand table, but instead of a wine bottle, he is holding a wooden ruler. This is the first sign of the king's uncompromising standards. Every fork, knife, and spoon must be spaced exactly 1 inch apart. If a dessert spoon is skewed by even a fraction of a millimeter, the entire symmetry is ruined. This isn't just about grandeur, it is about a profound obsession with order and precision. However, the real tension exists within the heat of the kitchen, specifically surrounding the preparation of the humble boiled egg. For years, a persistent myth circulated that the king demanded 7 eggs be boiled every morning so he could choose the one with the perfect consistency. While the palace eventually dismissed this specific story as fiction, the reality is no less demanding for the chefs. The king prefers his eggs, coddled a delicate process where the egg is boiled for precisely 2 to 3 minutes. One former royal chef recounted the silent pressure of this daily task, saying, "An egg seems simple, but it is the ultimate test of a kitchen's competence. The white must be just set, appearing almost like porcelain, while the yolk remains entirely runny and rich. If you miss that window by 10 seconds, the texture is lost." In the palace, a ruined egg isn't just a waste of food, it's a failure of the standard. You feel the weight of those seconds every single morning. This obsession with texture reveals a man who finds comfort in the familiar and the nostalgic, but only if it is executed with absolute perfection. He views these simple meals as a benchmark for the household's discipline. If the staff can achieve perfection in an egg, they can achieve it in the business of the state. It is a psychological environment of relentless scrutiny, where every bite is a grade on a report card. But don't let this focus on precision lead you to believe that the king's table is a place of unbridled indulgence. While he demands perfection in the preparation, he is equally strict about what is allowed to enter the kitchen in the first place. In fact, some of the world's most famous luxury ingredients are strictly forbidden from his residences. Not because of how they taste, but because of a deeply held moral code that often overrides the expectations of royal extravagance. While the British monarchy is often synonymous with the height of traditional gastronomic extravagance, the king's private menu is defined as much by what is missing as what is served. In a world where luxury is usually the default, he has curated a strict blacklist of ingredients that are never allowed to touch his plate. This is not a matter of picky eating. It is a profound intersection of international diplomacy and a deeply held moral compass. At the very top of this forbidden list is foie gras. For decades, the king has enforced a total ban on this prestigious French delicacy across all his royal residences. His decision is rooted in a long-standing commitment to animal welfare, specifically objecting to the practice of force-feeding ducks and geese. By prohibiting this item, he sends a powerful message to the culinary world that ethics are a primary ingredient, often superseding the expectations of royal luxury. One royal biographer noted, "The king made it very clear, long before he ascended the throne, that the suffering of an animal for the sake of a gourmet liver had no place at a civilized table." It was a rare instance of a monarch using his domestic kitchen to make a loud political statement about the food industry. However, not every ban is rooted in morality. Some are purely practical. Garlic, for instance. As a sovereign who spends his days in close-quarter conversations with world leaders and dignitaries, the lingering scent of garlic is considered a significant diplomatic hazard. Chefs are instead challenged to build depth of flavor using fresh herbs and seasonal reductions. A former member of the household staff joked, "You quickly learn that a dinner with the king is a scent-free environment." It ensures that post-dinner conversations are conducted without the distraction of bad breath, keeping the focus entirely on the business at hand. Perhaps the most eccentric detail of his dining habits is his insistence on bringing his own seasoning. There are numerous reports of the king traveling to the homes of foreign dignitaries with a small, private supply of his own sea salt. This reflects a man who clings to the comfort of consistency in a life defined by constant variation. It is a detail that reveals his particular nature, a blend of conservative habit and unyielding personal standards. Yet, if you remove the foie gras and the garlic, what remains? The answer is far from boring. While he rejects the commercial luxuries of the modern world, the king finds his greatest culinary thrill in the unpredictable bounty of the wild, a passion that takes him deep into the woods on a hunt for ingredients that could be either a gourmet masterpiece or a fatal mistake. If you find yourself dining at Balmoral or Highgrove during the damp autumn months, there is a very high probability that the mushrooms on your plate were handpicked by the king himself. This is not a casual hobby or a simple walk in the woods. It is a serious pursuit that reveals the king's identity as a true man of the land. He is an avid forager with a deep, expert knowledge of wild fungi, often disappearing into the forest for hours with a wicker basket to scour the earth for chanterelles and ceps. This habit can be slightly unnerving for the uninitiated, as wild mushrooms carry an inherent risk if misidentified. However, his expertise is well documented, and he takes immense pride in providing food from the landscape he stewards. One former royal chef recounted the experience of receiving these wild harvests, saying, "The king would often arrive at the kitchen door with a basket of dirt-covered mushrooms he'd found on the estate. He didn't want the kitchen to transform them into something unrecognizable. He wanted them sautéed simply, perhaps with a little butter and herbs, so that the guest could taste the very soil of the highlands. It was his way of sharing the essence of his home. This connection to the earth is the heartbeat of his entire culinary philosophy. Long before the farm-to-table movement became a global trend, he was a lonely voice advocating for organic farming. In the 1980s, he faced intense public ridicule for admitting that he talked to his plants and refused to use chemical fertilizers on his estates. Today, that supposed eccentricity is viewed as visionary. When he hosts world leaders, the menu is a physical manifestation of his environmental legacy. Serving a humble organic potato grown in his own garden at Highgrove is considered the ultimate royal power move. It is a statement that responsible, chemical-free farming produces a superior flavor that no amount of imported luxury can match. He wants to know the variety of the apple, the history of the breed of cattle, and the health of the soil. It is a portrait of a monarch who views himself as a farmer first and a sovereign second. Yet, this deep respect for the bounty of the earth leads to a surprising contradiction. You might expect a man of such immense wealth to live a life of endless, opulent surplus. But behind the palace gates, the king maintains a habit of frugality that feels more like a 1940s ration book than a modern monarchy. His obsession with where his food comes from is matched only by his absolute refusal to see a single scrap of it go to waste. Despite the immense wealth of the British crown and the staggering value of the royal estates, one of the most common sights in the palace kitchen is a stack of simple, plastic Tupperware containers. This is the physical evidence of the king's no-waste policy, a wartime mentality that he has maintained throughout his life. He abhors the idea of throwing away perfectly good food. If a roasted joint of lamb is not finished at dinner, it is not discarded. Instead, it is carefully stored to reappear as a shepherd's pie or a cold-cut platter the following day. One former royal chef recounted the strict instructions given to the kitchen staff, saying, "The king is incredibly mindful of the resources used to produce a meal. He would often critique the amount of food served if he felt the portions were excessive. He prefers a disciplined circular economy within his own kitchen." To him, food waste isn't just a domestic error. It is a major contributor to climate change and a personal failure of stewardship. This sense of control extends from the leftovers in the fridge to the very choreography of the dining room. A meal with the king is a masterclass in diplomatic strategy. The seating plan is never accidental. It is a tactical arrangement designed to facilitate specific conversations. There is a rigid protocol where the host speaks to the guest on his right for the first course, and then switches to the guest on his left for the second. Ignoring this rhythm is considered a major faux pas. Furthermore, the pace of the entire room is dictated by the monarch's fork. The moment the king finishes his meal, the staff will begin clearing the plates, regardless of whether a guest has finished their own portion. One frequent visitor to the palace noted, "You learn very quickly to keep one eye on your plate and the other on the king. If you are a slow eater or get too caught up in a story, your dinner might vanish before you've had more than 3 bites." It creates a dynamic where the meal is a synchronized event rather than a leisure activity. When we look closely at these habits, we see a portrait of a man defined by a rare combination of ancient tradition and modern urgency. His table is a place where the extreme luxury of his station is tempered by a personal philosophy of austerity and environmentalism. He controls what he can: the temperature of his tea, the source of his vegetables, and the destination of his leftovers, in a life where almost everything else is dictated by duty. What do you think of these strict royal rules? Does this level of precision show a visionary leader who practices what he preaches? Or is it a sign of a man too detached from the realities of modern convenience? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden world of royal dining, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next investigation into the private lives of the figures who shape our world.